I don't know if you've been listening to the last hour, but we've been asking why people have become so angry in a way that maybe 10, 20 years ago they weren't. I don't know if you've got a theory on that.
Angry just generally in terms of their positions in life?
Yeah, just about. I mean, I was saying earlier, I was in Dublin a couple of weeks ago, and just walking around the streets of Dublin, you see like happy faces, people smiling, and they just seem quite content. Whereas I don't get that feeling when I wander around the streets of London at the moment, and I doubt whether it's much different elsewhere.
Yeah, I think I did. Look, this is off the back of obviously a lot of most everyday people are being squeezed financially. Of course, we know this. It's a tough time, but I think that's added on top of an expectation or a deification, perhaps, of wealth, of riches. I had a conversation last night which had a really interesting revelation within that, was that we didn't always used to idealize the super wealthy. In fact, sometimes it was kind of in a way looked down upon socially, and now everybody expects an awful lot, and it's almost impossible to achieve, which is obviously a recipe for discontent, and there are two things going on at the same time. One, I think people need to have more access to opportunity and an ability to have a foothold in the country and the place they live in, and similarly, not be constantly fed these ideas of what's considered the way to live your life in a material sense. I've never really agreed with that.
You're known as a musician, but you've recently become more politically active. What's made you do that?
Well, I mean, the political aspect has come off of the back of me just having an interest in self-development, I guess. My life was definitely more chaotic about 8 or 9 years ago. And being that I had a pretty successful music career, I was in a position where I could choose to confront some of my demons, basically. And during that journey, it led me to writing a book, and it led me to learning a lot about myself and realizing that maybe I had a story that could help other people who felt a little bit disconnected with who they were and what they wanted from life.
You've previously said that the left has become puritanical. Is that why we're seeing some people, maybe particularly men, flirt with the far right?
Yeah, I certainly think that both sides of the political spectrum have very loud extremes, I think, and it's only adding to like a further polarized feeling in the country. There's a lot of there's a sense of division, and for men specifically, there's been a big transition in terms of the conversation and our responsibility and how we show up for each other. And I guess the reason I made a comment like that is because I wondered why there hadn't been more prominent voices discussing like how what modeling, what incredible ways there can be to achieve a state of harmony as a man. I realized that actually a lot of the reason is because a lot of the harmonious men I know who are in loving relationships and are working in their community and working tirelessly to better the people around them often don't choose to press record on podcast mics or live stream their life 24/7. So it's kind of a paradoxical situation we find ourselves in.
But in a way, that's quite important, isn't it? Because there are people that are stepping into this area, people like Andrew Tate, who, whatever one thinks about a lot of his views and who he is, seem to have grabbed hold of certainly, I would say, teenage males' attentions. And are you sort of trying to sort of redress the balance a bit there?
I think, yeah. Look, I mean,
I'm not saying you're the new Andrew Tate, by the way. But.
No, no. Please, I'm far from him. I promise you that. I think, look, there's a reason why. When you're a teenager, it's very tribal. You're really looking for a place. You don't want to particularly stand out. Sometimes, often, you want to just be. I think a lot of young people's ideas of consequence are forming, morality are forming. And, when you get shocking, edgy people saying things that can annoy someone in your class or whatever else, you're probably going to lean into that. It's no surprise to me that Andrew Tate was mostly supported by teenagers. It is very in keeping with, I guess, his general... well, anyway, that's another conversation. But for me, all I want to do is I want to showcase to young men that there are other choices that can be made in life that don't include having to subjugate huge portions of our society, that result in feeling good, that I feel good about my life after having made certain positive changes. For me, a big one was sobriety. I literally taught myself how to be a better boyfriend. Like things like this have actually aided my existence. I just haven't shouted about it in edgy ways necessarily. So it's, it's less attention grabbing, perhaps. I don't know.
He says you taught yourself how to be a better boyfriend. How does that work? Because I'm sure there'll be people whose ears pricked up at that.
It sounds wild, but it really is a thing. There are genuinely like courses and retreats, and I was in therapy for a long time. There's access if you're lucky enough to find the right people and the right piece of information. Teaching myself how to feel, how to understand my emotions, and how to use them to better navigate my own life. Like I found that I had to do that. That's why I advocate a lot for these kinds of conversations happening younger, for kids in schools to understand that the emotional world is incredibly important to every single person. Everyone's got to interact with the rest of the world on an emotional level. And sometimes it can feel like an abstract idea, but nowadays I think it's actually survival based too for a lot of men. AI is coming in and taking a lot of labor-based jobs, and for example, I think men could really benefit from taking more interest in the care sector, and that's something that comes from understanding our body and ourselves and how to relate to the world around us.
You recently interviewed Zack Polanski, the new leader of the Green Party, and I think he was at one of your recent concerts. Do you think he's able to speak to men in a way that, say, Nigel Farage can't? Although he's actually portraying himself as the left-wing equivalent of Nigel Farage, isn't he, in terms of he openly advertises himself as a green populist.
Yeah, well, I'm shocked that Nigel Farage is able to amass so much attention from men, considering the choices that he's made politically over the last 15 to 20 years. And I really don't think he presents himself as a particular kind of man, but I don't think that his educational background and the way he lives his everyday life would reflect that. But I don't know. I just like Zack. I think he's cool. I think he stands up for. He stands up for just political choices that align with my beliefs. I like his approach to drug laws. I like his approach to schooling. I like his approach to wanting to re-engage, the working class in a way that makes them feel empowered and wanting to create a sense of community. I don't know. That was really it. I like Zack, and that's why I decided to bring him out, because I definitely don't like Nigel Farage.
And how did he go down with your audience?
Yeah, they liked it. I think they enjoyed it. I mean...
Because it's always quite difficult, isn't it? Mixing music with politics. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I know, and I kind of thought about that afterwards. Ultimately, I just liked him. I did the podcast. Yeah. I thought it was cool, and he was around, so he came out, and I like what he stands for at the moment. Everything's fluid and moving, but it's very difficult. It's very easy, to feel politically kind of apathetic because of how hopeless things can feel. And so when somebody comes along who's willing to have conversations, who's willing to confront the other side of the spectrum, which is very important, I think the left could do a lot to just have these discussions, have the debates, and I like that about him. So I wanted to be part of pushing him and encouraging him. I don't know how everyone felt. There would have been people in that audience who I'm sure have heard some of the discourse coming from Reform and might have found it appealing. I don't know. But either way, that's where I stand. And I really believe that everybody can change their minds. Everybody can move and adapt with the right information. I don't think anybody's a bad person for feeling a kind of way,